Hello, everyone. This is my cultural identity reflection part two. I initially wanted to film this outside because peace, mindfulness, and balance have become such a big part of how I understand myself to be. I've been on this self journey of like meditation and all that good stuff. I wanted to feel like a genuine conversation and an experience. So in my first project, I focused on what I am, Dominican with Chinese ancestry, but now I want to go deeper into who I've become and how those cultures, values, and experiences shape the way that I communicate and live. So, cultural dimensions, respect, and collectivism. There's a Dutch researcher named Gert Hofstede who studied cultural values in more than 70 countries, including the Dominican Republic. So, his data shows Dominicans rank high in collectivism, meaning people value family and community over personal goals. That completely reflects how I grew up. Family always came first, respect for elders was everything, and supporting each other was just part of life. Those values still show in how I communicate today, whether it is with coworkers, my patients, or my own family. Perception in dance. In my earlier project, Dr. Ferris had mentioned that dancing could be individualistic. Well, I saw it as a collectivist. After thinking more about it, I really wanted to challenge this. I realized that both views are true. In dances like salsa, merengue, or bachata, you depend on your partner, and that's kind of like collectivist. But your personal style and expression is what makes it individualistic. UNESCO, which is the cultural branch of the United Nations, even describes Caribbean dance as a collective ritual that unites communities. For me, dance is the perfect metaphor for culture, personal expression that thrives through connection. Verbal behavior and how I communicate. The Dominican Spanish is expressive, loud, and full of rhythm. My Chinese heritage and my wife's Japanese side bring the opposite. It brings calmness, a subtle tone, and the value of silence. That's what researchers call high context communication, when much of the meaning comes from what's implied rather than what's said directly. I've learned to blend both, being warm and direct when needed, yet quiet and thoughtful when the situation calls for it. That adaptation helps me connect with everyone I pretty much meet. Nonverbal behavior, what silence says. So culture doesn't just show in words, it shows in presence. Dominicans show warmth through closeness and hugs. Asian cultures often show respect through stillness and composure, and both are pretty much powerful. They've taught me that sometimes silence, posture, or a simple smile communicates more than words could ever do. Music as a nonverbal communicator. For me, music is emotion and sound. I come from a jazz and R&B background, so I think harmony, chords and melodies carry feeling, tension, peace, and release. Sometimes one note hits me so deeply that like it brings me to tears. That's communication too, nonverbal, universal, and full of meaning. So through music, I express emotions that words can't really capture. Communication accommodation theory, or CAT. There's a communication theory by the scholar Howard Giles called communication accommodation theory, or CAT. It's about how people naturally adjust the way that they speak or act to connect better with others, often without realizing it. A great example of this is, for an example, my wife, she worked at this Colombian boutique in Union City or North Bergen. And after a few weeks, she started speaking Spanish with a slight Colombian accent. She wasn't trying to. It just happened because she was surrounded by it every day, and it just kind of became part of like her speech. I do that too. When I'm at work talking with doctors, my tone shifts automatically. I sound more formal and academic. When I'm with patients or coworkers, my tone becomes warmer and more conversational. And that's exactly what this theory describes. How we adapt to connect. It's not about pretending, it's about respect, understanding, and building better communication. So what to know to succeed in my culture? If someone wanted to succeed in my culture, I'd tell them, always start with respect, especially for elders. Build trust before business. Listen even in silence. It shows care. Also show emotion. Passion equals honesty. Remember, family is everything. Those lessons combine both sides of my background, the openness of Dominican culture and the discipline and humility from my Asian roots. Spiritual identity. So over time, I realized spirituality is another big part of my identity. I still believe in a higher power, but I focus more on peace within myself. Through mindfulness, compassion, and self awareness, I connect deeply with Buddhist values. And I also relate with what the author Sam Harris says in the book Waking Up, that spirituality doesn't have to come from religion. Awareness itself can be sacred. That idea helps me stay grounded. It reminds me that peace starts from within and that growth comes through understanding. So, legacy and harmony. So, my identity is like harmony: Dominican rhythm, Chinese balance, Japanese grace, and spiritual mindfulness, all blending together. Every part of me adds something different. I want to end by honoring my grandmother, who was the quiet strength of our family, humble, patient, and wise. I wish she could see how much I value our Chinese roots and how her lessons still guide me today. For me, this reflection isn't just about culture, it's about legacy, carrying the best of every world I come from and living it through peace, empathy, and love. So I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Ferris, for the chance to reflect. I've learned that culture isn't just something you're born into, it's something you live, grow through, and pass on. And it's pretty much like harmony. It sounds right when all the parts come in together.